Hello, I want to welcome you now to Youth Men 302 online, and this is week 6 for our course. So we're over the halfway point, and I do trust that everyone's having a great day. I'm sorry that I'm late with posting this video this week. It's been a tremendously busy week. We've had kids camp this week with our church, and just a great week ministering to our kids. And so I'm getting on here just a little bit late, but nothing to be concerned about. You've had your class notes and you can fill in those blanks, and I hope that this video will help you to kind of understand a little more about what the notes are focusing on. Today we're talking about focusing on planning, implementing life-changing events. And I'm sure that you can remember, if you were in student ministry or if you were in kids ministry, as a child, as a student, or if you've been a leader, you can remember some different events that just blessed your heart, that just perhaps changed your life for eternity. And I have quite a few that I'm proud of personally, that I've helped to plan and be a part of, and I've went to as a student, events that would change my life as well. And so I hope that you understand what I mean when I say a life-changing event. And with that comes intentional planning. With that comes focused planning. With that comes prayerful planning. And that's what I want to spend just a moment to talk to you about. Now, as always, what we're going to talk about, we need to make sure that it's biblical. And so the first question is planning with a purpose biblical? Absolutely, it is. And you can see quite a few different examples found in the scripture. But I mentioned like Moses and Jethro in Exodus 18, Joshua in Joshua 6, Nehemiah and the wall there in Jerusalem. That's found in the book of Nehemiah. Jesus gives us the Great Commission, which is probably one of the greatest examples of planning that you're going to see in the scripture. And of course, the Apostle Paul helping churches thrive and setting them up with pastors and ministers and teachers and giving them instruction for how the order of the church should be and how it should go. Those are all examples of biblical planning or purposeful planning in the scripture. But we need to keep in mind, we've all got our different plans. We've all got things that we would like to do. We've all got ideas that we would like to present to a planning team. But we need to remember what the scripture says in Proverbs 19:21. The scripture says, "Many are the plans of a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." And so we need to commit to making sure that God's purpose and God's plan is above our own, as we seek to do ministry with students, with children, or in other areas of the church. There's a couple of things that you've got to remember when it comes to purposefully planning events, and one is you need to commit to planning quality events over quantity events. So that means that you have to determine what your priorities are going to be, and you need to make a commitment to quality. I've been to a host of student ministry events over the years. I mean, quite a few. Like I said, I've planned countless numbers of events, some that I'm super proud of, and then there's others where I should have never tried or I should have never done them. And especially when you invite guests to be a part, there's so many facets that goes into the planning, and quality is way more than quantity. You can do so much more if you will plan one thing well at a time. Had a mentor in the faith that would often get on to me about that. I'd planned 3 or 4 things to happen during a month with our youth group there in Asheville, and he would remind me. He's like, "Brother, you can't build Rome in a day." And he said, "This church and the youth ministry is not going to be built in a day either. So you need to take your time, and you need to plan one thing really well, rather than planning several things that aren't executed well." So make sure that you make a commitment to quality events over quantity events, and understand that your values and your priorities determine what's important in your activities. And I use the acronym relationships, just to ask some questions like, what are the goals? What are the goals of the events? What do we want to see happen with our students? And so are we wanting to build relationships? Are we wanting to encourage? Are we want to have laughter and celebration? Do we want transparency and acceptance? And do we want our students to be involved? I mean, these are questions to ask. Are we going after numerical growth or spiritual growth or both? Or do we want it to be a home-like feeling? Do we want it to be intimate, though, where, we're able to focus in on the hearts of the students ourselves? Professionalism, is that going to be important? Follow up. I mean, all these things go into play. And so you just need to ask, is my event going to bring one of these things or a few of these things? You have to state what the values are. You need to state what is important to you for this event ahead. All right. You won't be able to accomplish all those things, but it would be good to accomplish one or a few of those things per event. And we have to make a commitment to quality. Another thing is teamwork overrides the one-man show. Teamwork overrides the one-man show. I told you I was in kids camp this week and I was a part of the team. I was not the leader. I was a leader, but I was not the leader. And I didn't help plan kids camp. I gave suggestions to the team that did plan it. And I made adjustments as I had involvement. But my part in kids camp was to be of male support, male counselor support. I was also a helper on the canoes for an afternoon, and then I delegated that out. Then I helped on the washing the water day and washing buses crew, and then I was a bus driver, and then I taught one of the lessons. But I never was the one-man show. I was a part of a team, a greater team putting on the event. And you're going to function better in ministry if you will commit to being a part of the team over being a one-man show. And here's why. There's a lot of benefits that come with working with a team. And here's the list: creativity, shared vision. You're going to have more resources to work with. You're going to have a greater sense of ownership in the group. There's going to be more enthusiasm. If you're part of a team that's putting something on, it's going to be better for those very reasons, to be a part of that team. Together, you're serving. Together, you're putting these events on. Together, you're putting together the team to execute this event. And who should be on the team? We haven't talked a lot about this, but asking the question, who should be on my leadership team, or who should be on our planning team when it comes to youth ministry? And I suggest church staff. I suggest volunteers. I suggest students that are mature in the faith and that are going to be of help. I suggest parents. Parents are a very important player in the volunteers on the team. But other members in the church, church volunteers, they're going to help make your team. Chances are, where you serve, you're going to need a solid team that's going to be volunteer based. Not everybody on the team is going to be a paid staff member unless you're in a large church. And that's possible, I guess, but that's not realistic. So you need to build a firm base with your volunteers there in the church and commit to meeting with them on a regular basis. And we're gonna also talk about purposeful execution or purposeful planning over poor execution. So that means for the events that you plan, regardless of what it is, whether it's a youth camp or retreat, whether it's a bowling night, whether it's going out for pizza, watching a movie, whether it's a discipleship Bible study, you have to establish a defined purpose and outcome for that event. And now that's for evaluation purposes. State your purpose. What was the purpose of our camp? What was the purpose of our kids camp? What was the purpose of the youth camp? What was the purpose of taking the students to, like, our group's going to, they're going to Paradise Island or something like that. It's a water park in South Carolina. You need to ask, why are we doing this? And what would be the expected outcome or the goal outcome for the event? I want to encourage you to schedule these events early as to avoid conflict. And that I'm not talking about just in the church. I'm talking about with your parents, with your students. They're busier than ever right now, especially with school ramping back up and ball schedules coming out and extracurricular activities. You're going to do well to schedule early. I suggest that you have your plans laid out at least a month and a half in advance, if not 2 months in advance, if at all possible. Some will go quarterly. We'll say we'll plan events quarterly so that people know what to look forward to in the next 3 months. Some plan out a half a year to a year in advance, depending on the size of the group and depending on the style of the event or what kind of event it is. I mean, most youth camps, most retreats, they're getting the word out at least 6 months in advance to start registration. So make sure you schedule early to avoid conflict. I mentioned the ABCs of planning. You need to ask first, one with your committee and ask, is this something we would like to do? Then you need to book it. You need to take care of all those details to make sure that you've got a plan out, but then you need to calendar it with your church. So another thing, cover the details in order to accomplish your purpose, and then focus on the why behind what you are doing. You need to know why you're doing what you do. And that all comes with purpose. In first quarter 301, I talked about having a purpose statement. And I talked about the importance of asking the who, what, where, when, why, and how it's going to be accomplished. And I think those are important when it comes to planning events on purpose. Okay. You want to have a balanced calendar. You want to reach different groups of students throughout the year. You have different purposes, purposes of ministry, whether it's evangelism, discipleship, fellowship, ministry, leadership development. I mean, those things are all going to come into play, but you have to know why you're doing what you're doing. That's got to be communicated with a team, and you've got to commit to excellence. You've got to commit to a quality event over a slew of events that aren't done well. So I hope these thoughts, these comments will help you. I have a lot of ministry planning experience, and some for the good, some not for the good. So I'm just telling you, I've been doing this a while, and I can offer any help if you need it. So as we're rounding the corner, going into our 7th week, we're almost finished up with another quarter of Fruitland. But again, I appreciate all that you're doing to do your Take 5 assignments. I'll be finishing up those midterms on Monday. So all your midterm grades should be submitted in. I'm also going to be sharing with you a link to the Zoom conference that we had in week 5. And there was only a handful of students that could attend, but I recorded it. And I recorded it so that I can answer some questions that others may have about the final project. So make sure that you check that out as you get the opportunity. I'm just going to post a link, and you can take a look at it as you have time. All right. Well, I hope that you take care. I'll see you week 7, and God bless you. I'm praying for you all. See you later.